You're listening to the Discussing the Resilient podcast, hosted by Aiden Smalley and William Reid, a competitive 40k podcast for the servants of Nurgle and the fallen 14th Legion. Tactics, meta-analysis, and all things Death Guard. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Discussing the Resilient podcast. This is episode 4, and we've got a very special guest. Obviously, the Death Guard community has been, I wouldn't say turmoil, but there's also been a lot of discussion about where Death Guard sit in the meta, and no one's gone the distance in Arks of Omen, or no one had gone the distance until a recent 5 I know, get my words out properly, at the CAG BASH, and we have the 5-0 winner on the show this week to break down his list, talk about his games, have a bit of general Death Guard discussion. So, we'll start by welcoming Gareth. Gareth, say hello, so introduce yourself.
Garret,
sorry, Garret. I slip with the tongue.
You guys are fine. You're fine. I've heard it said a million different ways. But yeah, I took Death Guard 5-0 to the CAG BASH with a pretty standard list, or what I see as a pretty standard list going forward. And yeah, it's an honor to be on.
This makes no sense. Death Guard a D tier. Out of what said so.
Oh man, you should not go watch where I rank them in the video series on my channel, and that is at Watches in the Dark on YouTube. Check that out. Yes,
please do check it out. Obviously, he's been so gracious enough to come on here and join us for an episode of Discussing Resilient, and he has plenty of other great content on his own channel. So definitely, we'll put a link on the channel if you're on YouTube and whatnot. And if you're on Spotify, please, you can type Watches in the Dark on YouTube. That would be great, and show him some support as well.
Yeah, it's really funny though. In my tier list rating, I put them also in bottom tier with nobody else in the same tier as them. That was like 2 months ago.
That's a little awkward now.
Yeah, just a little weird.
I think the reality is though. So I've actually played a tournament this weekend. I played the War of the Roses. So I struck them words today. Event run by Team England over the road at Element Games. And to be honest, I was in with Death Guard, and I still think they are probably bottom of the pile for a number of different reasons. But bottom of the pile at the moment, the meta's quite balanced, and I think the fact that you can show that you can pull it out, player skill just prevail. Obviously, it's a dice game. You can always roll sixes and so on. And but I think the sad reality is if you're gonna be like a meta chaser, someone who doesn't care what faction they're gonna play, and you just want to try and go 5-0, Death Guard are probably bottom of the pile for that that decision. But as we say, for faction purists, people who love the army, don't give up despair, because as Garrett's going to talk us through, player skill and determination can go the distance.
So I would like to cap that off. I actually am one of those meta chasers that have swapped armies for the past year. I constantly swap, but Death Guard was my main army that I've always had since I got back into the game. I've been playing for like 14 years or so. Got out during 8th edition, got back in 9th edition, and Death Guard was the army I recollected first, and I really built up. I have something like 12,000 points of Death Guard or something crazy.
Jeez.
Almost every. Oh, sorry. My collection is. I have every Death Guard model ever produced from Forge World and GW. So I have the old original Death Guard Plague Marines, or not Death Guard, but old Plague Marines. You had to buy a Forge World kit for, and a Chaos Space Marine kit, and you had to
I remember them.
attach the leg. They were miserable to assemble. Same with the Dreadnoughts and stuff. So Death Guard's been my one and true. Everybody likes to see me on Death Guard, and this is the faction I just seem to have success with every time I revisit it. But I played
Nurgle's blessing.
Yeah. I've played Tau, have World Eaters, just built T-Suns, played Knights, played AdMech, played basically everything that's at the top tier. Guard for a bit, everything. Just all around this last year. So I've been that meta chaser before. I'm now really settling into Death Guard in all of the Chaos factions. That's my current goal for this year, is play Chaos factions.
Wow. So I suppose that leads nicely into one of the first questions then. So why Death Guard? Because that's one we wanted to ask, is it you a mono guy or a meta chaser? And obviously the fact that the latter makes it more instant. So did you pick Death Guard to prove a point and show that they're there, or did you see something in the meta that you thought actually there's a potential here to sort of catch?
I already know the answer to this, and it's funny.
So it's crazy. There's actually 3 big answers to this. A, spite my friend Conrad, which is my round 1 opponent, which is very funny. He wouldn't bring Night Lords. He was, even though his army's beautifully painted Night Lords and stuff like this.
He's not like Conrad Kurz. He's not Conrad Kurz.
Yeah, he's Conrad. His actual name's Conrad. He doesn't play Night Lords. He has them all beautifully painted Night Lords. Oh.
How could you not play Night Lords when you first
I know!
Wow.
I know.
That's brilliant.
He's got them all painted beautifully, though.
Has he painted his own face on the on other characters and stuff?
He hasn't, but I want him to 3D sculpt one. Our buddy does it for all of his tech marines and stuff. He's got his face 3D printed onto a tech priest.
Wow, that's brilliant. So I didn't mean to cut you off there. Just had to get that little pun in. So go. So Conrad, it's if you wanted to prove him wrong, then.
Yeah, I wanted to prove him wrong. A, B. The week before CAG BASH, before list submissions were due, I'm a meta chaser, so I had all these armies like Tau and stuff. I sold all of my 40k armies that weren't chaos. I've talked about this on another podcast recently, the Death or Glory podcast. I sold every, like, Tau, Guard. I'm literally trying to remember what else I had. I had, like, all of these armies painted, thousands of points of each. I sold all of them, and I collected all in the last 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. T-Suns, I've already had Demons. Collected T-Suns, CSM, and World Eaters. I've got thousands of points of that now. But I've literally, like, had, like, a quarter-life crisis because I'm 24, and sold everything and just bought all of the Chaos factions. And that's nice. my new identity is I'm just going to be a Chaos player.
Nice.
The best kind.
Yeah, it's good to hear. So talk us through the list then. I mean, talk us through not just the list as well, and maybe give us a bit of thinking about why you pick some particular units. I mean, I've got some questions I want to ask, and I'm sure Aiden has too. But if you sort of, start us from the top down to HQs and pick out any sort of like key bits of war gear, because I know on the Terminators you decided not to take the Reaper auto cannons and things. So these are some interesting things to sort of run through as part of the discussion.
Okay, so we have to cover a few things real fast when we do this list. I'm not a perfect player. Nobody plays the game perfectly. And I did not play list construction perfectly. We're going to first off cover off these two topics straight off the bat. There should be Reaper autocans in these units. That's just a mistake on my part. It was in a rush to submit the list, and I made a mistake. Going forward, I updated them to Reaper autocans. I played an RTT just yesterday, and also went 3-0 with the updated version of this list.
Nice.
So we'll talk through the differences with that and what I think the list should be. They are very minor tweaks, it's literally just like the free autocans on the Terminators. And then the other big thing we're going to cover straight off the bat, because it's in the HQ sections, and then we can go through the rest of the list, is the Malignant Playcaster with Befouling Runoff. That should have been on, I believe, the Foul Blight spawn to give, I believe the runoff is the reroll number of shots plus 1 strength, because it's a pathogen upgrade. Yeah, it should have been Viscous Death on the Foul Blight spawn. I just totally fumbled the bag on that one. Didn't put it on there, saw it the day of the event, and was like, I guess I just don't have a Strength 8 Blight spawn today. I guess it's Strength 7 for this event. So that sucked.
On the counter, you have a Strength 7 staff.
Yeah. I have a staff. I never used the stat. I forgot about Befouling Runoff as soon as I started playing the games. So that was just a list, and that just should have been different. I messed that up entirely, and I'll take fault for that. But we're going to start off going down the list real fast. Those are the only 2 big corrections I wanted to make with the list, was just of in a rush, not paying enough attention, and that's bad on me. But we'll get into it. So the list is Inexorable. So it's the stratagem for -2 to charge, and the warlord trait for a bonus AP.
Nice.
The best.
Yeah.
Within your contagion range, so it goes like 1, 3, 6, 9. And so the Death Guard Demon Prince is just a Demon Prince with revoltingly resilient warlord trait, I believe that is, which is a 5-up field of pain.
Yep.
The spell Gift of Contagion, which I believe is
extends the range on the contagion, doesn't it? So
I'm saying this right now because this annoys me. Gift of Contagion has nothing to do with contagion ranges, and it's so annoying because Gift of Plagues is the one that extends the range, and it makes no goddamn sense.
So here's the problem. So in my new lift, it's Gift of Plagues. I made the same mistake and put Gift of Contagion on my list, and then all he did this entire weekend was cast Smite, because I was like, Gift of Contagion is absolutely useless in most situations. So, because I also was like, oh, Gift of Contagion is the one that modifies contagion range. I'll select this one because I know it's like, I'm going to want to do it multiple turns to get that bonus contagion range. So I've got all these fast units to like go up and really have a larger contagion range. And then I read the spell and I'm like, oh wow, I just didn't put it on him. I guess we're casting Smite.
Yeah, I always forget the name as well. I have to like add it on in Battlescribe and then go and click View until I click the right one.
I know. Well, you'd think like he said, Gift of Contagion should affect contagion range and not Gift of Plagues.
It was the interns week. Go easy on him.
Yeah. So we have Folded Wings, Fellforged Sword. The reason we go with Sword is it's just Strength 8 in combat. We give -1 toughness, so it's just really good. Breakpoint. It's AP 3, damage 3, so it's also just like what you want in a weapon on him. I don't really think I think the claw is okay, but I think the sword is just the best on the Demon Prince at the moment.
Yeah, it's best all rounder for sure.
The Plague Skull of Gluthilla, whatever you want to say.
My beloved.
Oh yeah. I love this. I don't know. I have very mixed feelings on it because during the GT, it didn't do a whole lot. But in the RTT yesterday, I was literally like gonna cut it for the RTT, didn't cut it, and it was an MVP all day. It like showed up. So I don't know how I feel. It's very inconsistent. I would say if it's not really feeling well for you, it is a cut you can make. I would also recommend, if you're not having success with this version of the Demon Prince, try putting it onto the Terminator Squad as a upgrade for the Sergeant. I think that also could have play. But in my personal experience, it's very hit or miss.
Yeah, whenever you use that relic, sometimes you have like multiple games in a row where it does like nothing, and the second you debate dropping it from your list, it will god roll, and you'll be like, best relic in the game.
Yeah, so spoilers, because we won't talk about the RTT too much. It hit a Baneblade for, I believe, 9 mortal wounds yesterday, which was, so good. I only rolled like 1 3, and the rest were all like 5 pluses and 6s. I was like,
Chef's kisses.
Man, this is rough. Then I've got 2 Malignant Playcasters in the list. We'll try to stay on topic a little bit more.
I had some questions about these playcasters, so I'm quite curious. So far away. Then at the end, I might pick your brain on something.
Yeah. So like I said, the Fouling Runoff shouldn't be there on one of them. But we have 2 Malignant Playcasters, both with Miasma, Pestilence, and Putrescent Vitality. The real reason they both have the same spell, and this was a conscious decision, it's not like I misplayed this. The reason is because normally they're in 2 different spots. In most scenarios, they're in 2 different spots on the board, giving out this buff where I kind of seem that it feels like it needs a little bit more impact. So if you're fighting against a list that really can't deal with the Terminators already, you don't really need to apply Miasma, Pestilence, and like you're probably gonna put Putrescent on them anyways because you don't really have anything better to put it on. But Miasma is very flexible. I put it on drones many times throughout the event because I run my drones in a basically as a unit of 3 individual models and put Miasma on the front one just to make it harder to kill all 3 of them.
That's clever. That's really clever.
Yeah, it's just really flexible. And normally, if they are running together, 1 cast Smite, 1 cast Miasma, 1 cast Smite, 1 cast Putrescent Vitality. If they're both running right behind the Terminators. Or if one needs to do psychic actions and stuff like that.
So I had a couple of questions. So one of them is, why not Curse of the Leper? Because Curse of the Leper is the one that I find I can't live without because it does just so much work sometimes. Was that a consideration, or as you say, did you just not feel it was as important as those other 2 spells?
So I think my Demon Prince always has. I feel like the 2 Malignant Playcasters having the same spell are just so important because you can just perils twice and lose a Playcaster. You really want to just have that, like, it's very rare that it happens, obviously. These are very, like, grotesque, but you want that consistency throughout all your games, because sometimes that will just come up. Like, when you're playing a lot of games, you will have these games, like, back-to-back where you could just, oh, wow, I exploded my Playcaster because he perils into perils, and I just didn't have a CP or something. Like, I just always wanted the guarantee that I will have a Playcaster on the board to be able to do this. Okay. And normally, if I have a flex spell, it goes on the Demon Prince. Gift of Plagues is the spell I typically have as my flex spell. I think it's I could very easily see in the future cutting the Demon Prince almost all together in this list. and going for maybe a third Plaguecaster. Because Plaguecaster's ability on a 7+ hit something for an additional mortal on a 7+ is just so, or an extra mortal on a 7+ within 12 inches is just so powerful.
So you've never considered, because obviously Curse the Lepers are one where you roll the 7 dice and have to roll over the toughness. I know there are some targets, for example, who said if you play it in the Knights, even with Contagion of toughness 6, it's impossible to roll a 7, so the spell's useless in that matchup. But obviously into some sort of more infantry heavy armies, or especially Space Marines, for example, maybe you get to get lucky and put it into a character. So you've never found that you missed that? Did you find that there was enough smite and mortals coming out from the 3 casters?
Yeah, a lot of the time I just think that smite is good enough. It's just I'd rather. I think it's fine. I think the spell itself is fine. But I think just having the ability to cast smite is. I'm more wanting to have that flexibility within these spells than rather have Curse of the Leper. And like I said, I'm really not willing to move off having both Plaguecasters and have the same spell for all of the like redundancy and like availability of flexibility it adds to the play. But I could definitely see it on something like the Demon Prince.
Okay, now it's an interesting point, because the other thing I also wanted to ask was, I noticed 3 Psykers, which obviously we've already run through, 2-player Malignant Player casting the Demon Prince. I wondered if a part of that decision was also for Warp Ritual, because obviously Mental Interrogation, it's not gone, but it's a lot harder now. You need to see the character you're putting it into, and I know there's some armies, Tau for example, where the psychic secondaries are wide open. So did that ever come up?
So, this is really funny. I take it for Warp Ritual. I got unbelievably punished because I took Mental Interrogation, or Psychic Interrogation, whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. But Psychic Interrogation is actually not worded that way if you reread it. It is worded, it's 2 different bullet points. One of them is you must be able to see a character, and then one character must be within 24 inches. They're 2 separate bullet points, actually. So, if you can see a character that's 72 inches away, but there's a character behind a wall within 12 inches, you can actually still mental interrogate. God. This is all actually still legal, and if you go reread it in the Arks of Omen book, it is worded terribly. Because it is 2 separate bullet points that they call out now. So I do think it has some play if you feel like you're in those moments of desperation of like you need to score 15s in this game to like have the ability to win the match. And I always think about stuff like this. I'm always thinking of ways of maximizing my score because I want to win events. I don't want to come in second. I need to go for these broke plays because I want to finish at the top.
That is peak GW right in that.
Yeah. But I don't have the book in front of me right now. I'm sorry I didn't grab it. But yeah, Arks of Omen, they changed the wording of it to where it's 2 different bullet points. You must be both conditions. You must be able to, a character must be visible to the Psyker, and another character just must be within 24 inches.
Yeah, so basically what it's saying is that you need to see a character, but the character you could see could be 40 inches away, so you can't mental interrogate him, but if there's one that's within range, 12 inches behind a wall, for example, that you can't see, you can see the one that isn't within range, but then cast mental interrogation because there's one within range, even that one you can't. Okay.
So yeah, mental actually isn't that terrible when you get into scenarios and stuff. It is. I think it is worse than Warp Ritual, but it's actually I think still has some play.
Okay, because that's why I wondered if that was where I had 3. I've always felt the way Warp Ritual works now. Perhaps the Terminator brick changes this, but I've always felt that you chuck one out, that one dies. You took another one out, that one dies. But then I've also thought, well, if people, fair play, if you do secondaries properly, you do them secretly and show them at the same time. But I've also thought if people do get a hint that you're going to do that, then they'll probably take Assassinate. And then those 3 that you flicked out are also, a minimum 9 on that, which is a bit of a gift to people. So did you, what's your thought on that? Did you ever find yourself doing that? Or, obviously I know we've jumped a bit ahead to talk about the Terminator brick, which we'll come to when we start with the rest of the list, but what did you find with that? Because I find that secondaries with Death Guard at the moment, that's the biggest thing that holds them back.
So I actually think I look at Death Guard as a risk-taking faction right now for the secondaries. I took Warp Ritual once, and I took Mental Interrogate once. The Mental Interrogate was a mistake. I played it badly. And it did cost me in the end. So I have learned my lesson. I will be taking War Patrol in 90% of the games, other than when I'm really going for that last 3 points that I absolutely need. The Terminator brick really helps because a lot of the time people just can't deal with a Miasma, Pestilence, Putrescent Vitality Terminator brick. You just have 10 Terminators sitting in front of them. It's A, not worth the effort, B, not worth really the investment because there's other things you could be killing. But we'll talk about that more later when we go over the rest of the list. We can hark back to this.
Yeah, let's pick up on that. We'll let you run through the rest of this, and I'll stop asking so many questions until we get to the end.
No, you're fine. I just don't want to give too many spoilers so they know what's going on. It's pretty static, what I do for my Plague Marine squad. This is actually, I think, very up to whatever you guys think. I bring a Plague Champion with Plasma Gun, Power Fist, Blight Launcher, Cleaver, Flail, and then an extra Plasma Gun on a normal Marine. I'd say the Blight Launcher and a Flamethrower, the... what is it called? The
Plague Belcher or something, isn't
Plague
it?
Belcher, yeah. That is totally up to personal preference. I have 2 units of that and 2 units of 10 Poxwalkers. Really just there to do spread the sickness and go basically die on points if I think they're going to get cleared turn 1 by some shooting army.
Makes sense. And how many interplay means did you have? Was it 1 or 2?
It was 2 squads of 5.
And did you take... But I know we were going to just to jump. Did you take a Rhino as well, or is that something that you for the extra fees getting out?
I just walked them down. They're basically just very efficient units for melee. Like they sit in the home field and they're basically just anti deep strike units. They like are good against things like the Incarn. They're good against some of these really fast melee units that Eldar have. They're very good into a lot of they're just a good counterpunch unit. Very good at just counterpunching, keeping people out of your zones, and sometimes just adding that little bit of extra firepower you need from the Blight Launcher and double Plasma Guns. They're really good at just finishing off those last few wounds.
Nice. So you have the 4 troops, the 2 Plague Marines and the 2 Poxwalkers, and what was in the elite section?
The elite section, like we talked about already, is a Blight Lord Terminator unit, all with axes, because I think the axes are the best way to run them at the moment, with all of them with Combi Vultures, and 2 Flail of Corruptions. Like we said, I guess I had Acid Malady on the Sergeant, just for a little bit of extra AP crunch into things like Votan and stuff. Acid Malady is a very flex spot here. If you want to use those points elsewhere, I'm all about it. If you wanted to come up with some other things that you think might be good, maybe making those Plague Staff Strength 5, or sorry, not Strength 5, Strength 7, Strength 8, whatever it is.
I think it's actually Strength 8, isn't it? Because I think it's plus 3 Strength already, aren't they?
Yeah, it's plus 3 Strength base, and then it goes to Strength 8, because you get plus 1 additional Strength from the pathogen. So, I mean, it's not terrible. I've had my Psychers in combat once or twice throughout events.
Strength 8's a really good break point, especially, even when there's a lot of Toughness 5 in the meta, sort of
exactly
certain Space Marine units and stuff. But just in terms of the pathogen on the Sergeant, just because obviously people listening might be familiar with the names, what does it actually do? What was it given in terms of like a buff, like a rules buff?
Yeah, it actually just gives plus 1 AP to the weapon. So you're just using it on his axe just to make it AP 3.
Nice.
Which I recommended. These guys are all with Bulgers and 2 Flail of Corruptions. So don't. I definitely think you bring 2 autocannons now for free because they're 3 points. Strength 7, AP 1 damage, or AP 2 1 damage.
Yeah, it's a range on them as well, isn't it? I think it's 30. Is it 32? 36.
36. Yeah, it's very good. And they're assault, I believe, for some reason. So you can, if you're just running the Terminator unit, get free shots.
Nice. Okay. I thought they were heavy, but there might be assault. I've never.
I believe they're just assault. We were looking at this profile yesterday because we were like, man, these are actually just straight upgrades. No, sorry, they are heavy. I apologize. They are heavy on this because we were looking at blight launchers as well. We've been testing blight launchers and autocannons. And the blight launchers are assault. That's what it is.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, go on, Ian. What are you going to say?
No, I was just saying so it's interesting to see this because obviously, like last episode or the episode before, I was talking like I don't really believe in like the 10-man Blight Lord Terminator brick, but like again, I just want to reiterate to people, I don't know everything. I don't know your metas. I don't know what's good for you. And obviously, as you can see in this instance, even a unit I consider not particularly the best, it's definitely more down to a player's skill than it is the actual like unit build. And he's managed to get a 10-man Terminator brick, and he's managed to do it. And you won the RTT as well using the same brick, yeah?
Yep. So this list, all of the corrections I've just stated above are actually what went into the RTT list. So it's just all these like auto cans on the Terminators, have the foul blight spawn with the right upgrade, and it's literally just that. That was basically the only change to the list, and the one spell on the Demon Prince, and that was the only changes. And I got another 3-0 victory. Nice. So yeah.
I just don't want anyone thinking like, okay, because a lot of people get caught up in like what that person said is like gospel now, and obviously that's not true. I don't want anyone to take anything I say as like actual facts and tell anyone that runs something that I don't particularly like.
Everything we say on this podcast is fact, guys. Everything we say. So
yep, also absolutely.
The world's flat. Whether you do or don't believe in God, whatever we say, if we say God exists, he exists, he doesn't. But no, stop.
Mike Porter beats his opponents to death.
That's it, yeah. But in all seriousness, Aiden's right in what we're saying. Yeah, it's all opinion. I mean, the idea, it's a game, and everything's, everyone's got their own tactics, their own ideas, and the fact that there's, different lists sort of doing well with events, that's why we've got the podcast to talk on that. And so going back to the list then, Garret, so what else have you got on the elite slot? Because obviously Death Guard's elite slot is sometimes a bit congested.
Well, this is one of the times it's not, actually. I've got just a Foul Blight Spawn and a Tallyman. They both do have some relics, though, so we'll get over this real fast. I gave the Foul Blight Spawn the Ferric Blight Whirler trait from Inexorable for the bonus AP while within its contagion range. Really, that exists just so I can put it on Plague Drones and then cast Gift of Plagues onto them and get like that big, roughly a 9-inch bubble. Turn 1, turn 2, like a 12-inch bubble. Because it gives the stratagem gives 1 additional range or whatever, and then plus 6
it counts as a turn higher.
Yeah, it counts as a turn higher, and everything. And then he's got Revolting Stench Vat. You can't leave home without it. It's just if you bring a Foul Blight Spawn, you're probably bringing the Stench Vat. Tallyman just has the Tollkeeper, really just to get more value out of those Terminators. Really just get that +1 to wound strat they have. And just like all around, just give them good chaff clearing firepower.
So did you find that was quite essential then? Because that was one of the things I looked at the list. I thought that if you wanted to try and free up some CP that could, because I know it's useful, but obviously just with it being on bolters specifically, or did you find that it was clutch?
I think it was very worth it in the end, because a lot of the stuff in the game there's a lot of -1 in the game, I feel like, right now, to hit. And it just seems like them hitting on 2's base, go to 3's with like Demon Prince reroll 1's, it's just very good at the moment. Having a lot of shots that can hit consistently seems very much worth it.
Yeah, no, I think that makes good sense to me. Because obviously, like you say, rerolling 1's and 6's to sort of get an additional hit is, it combos up quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Tollkeeper does affect autocans and stuff, by the way. It affects all core units, yep.
Yeah, just it's any range, obviously you can put on Contemptors and things like that, which is the big... Well, it was previously the big meta list, but I don't know, maybe it's a big meta list is 10 Terminators, as we're discovering now.
Yeah.
So what else did you have then? Because obviously, did you have anything else from the Vivian slots, any...
Yep. The most important part of the list are actually these 6 units, plus Terminator Brick, I'd say. 3 Plague Verse Crawlers and 3 Floated Bloat Drones.
Bloat Drones, yes.
With Flesh Mowers.
Yes, yeah. 100% with them.
Yeah, they just really give you the speed you need in the list. And they're also good sentries for objectives. They just sit in the middle, and then you can use that strat for a 6-inch heroic intervene. So, or they can even sit on the back of an objective and be hidden sometimes and just threaten out that entire objective, because that 6 inches is just such a large range for them to be able to heroic intervene. And I very much made sure that all of my opponents know this. I'm not a gotcha player at all. I absolutely hate gotchas. I think they're the worst part of the game. I also would rather beat an opponent knowing I would rather play a clean, good game with my opponent as if they were playing at their best level than if they're just off or not a good... Like, things happen. outside of the game, and I want people to play at their best or simulate at their best.
No, definitely.
So I very much did make sure that every time somebody was even thinking about coming close to the mowers, multiple times I was like, hey, you need to be like 6 inches out. They haven't intervened. Stratagem. So do not come close to them. That's the whole point of why I'm even when I would like put them on objectives stuff, I made sure they knew. I hate gotchas. So yeah, that's just one thing. If you do play this list, you're playing Triple Blood Drone, don't try to like gotcha people. Try to remind them and be courteous as you want your opponent to be to you, and really play by intent. Don't be like gotcha loser for being within 6 of the objective when you're just trying to stay an inch away from me so you can steal it from me.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to mention, because like you say, it's best to sort of be up front and not sort of like, you know, don't tell people that the far white swan has a fight last. And
it's the whole treat people the way you want to be treated thing. That's a big concept. I'm like, man, I don't want somebody to just like absolutely gotcha me on something. So if I can avoid it, I don't always remind my opponent about things I can do, like the +1 to wound, +1 to hit strat for Terminators.
No, I think that's bang on to be that way, and so it actually, there's one thing I want to ask, because this was actually one of the topics that we were maybe going to touch on, so maybe we could have a little sort of roundhouse on this now. It's PPCs, because in my opinion, I've really found them underwhelming, but then I know other people swear by them. I know, you know, there seems to be something that's quite polarised at the moment. So where do you stand them? Obviously with 3, it looks like you're a big fan. I mean, what's the thinking, you know, behind that decision?
So I'm on your team, actually. I am not normally a Plagueburst Crawler fan. In a lot of my old lists, I didn't run any. I actually, in the past, I used to only play Terminus S Assault Force until its discontinue in January. I like always purely ran Terminus S. About 80 to 100 Poxwalkers, a bunch of Death Shrouds, some Plague Marines, and then roughly the same character loadout. Probably Typhus is in the list.
I missed that list, but my back definitely doesn't.
Absolutely missed that list. That is my absolute favorite way to play Death Guard. But I played that because I never was a fan of the Plagueburst Crawlers in general. The reason I take them now is because they're so cheap. They're 145. They're just very cheap. They do... Individually, they are weak. Individually, they won't do much. But they do, like, together they are, like, strong. They just, like, end up doing enough. They do a lot of chip damage. They also just, not to say they're distraction card effects, but sometimes they just are. Sometimes your opponent just has big stuff on the other side of the table that you're just gonna keep putting your entry cannons into and stuff. Yeah,
no, I think that makes sense. I mean, the thing I found most frustrating about them was when they got tagged in combat, and then, do you know what I mean, like, I don't know, say five guardsmen tag them or something, or 10 guardsmen if it's a full squad, and then you find that you have to shoot the enemy cannons into them, and they generally miss because they hit on 4s, and you just sort of find that they just sort of get stuck there, and you have to send, you know, like, a unit back to clear that. Did you ever find that happened, or were you applying enough ball pressure at people?
I got some bad news for you. Entry cannons hit on 3 in combat, and that's because I believe it's Inexorable Advance works on them. And Inexorable Advance has this weird tagline that just says, you don't suffer the -1 to hit in combat with heavy weapons. I'm going to check that right now.
I think it's only on Bubonic Astartes, and the Plagueburst Crawlers don't get the keyword for that.
You might be correct. I need to double check this. But I normally don't have them in combat too often.
Oh, it's a bad day if they're in big combat list.
Yeah. Yeah, they normally just sit on my home field. All 3 of them normally just sit on like a home field objective after I've spread the sickness on it. And just send mortars into like a... Like, I know it only kills like 1 to maybe 2 Space Marines a turn. If you do that over 4 turns and the things are running low on the table for them, if you wipe that backfield squad of Space Marines with the mortars, they've done their job. They have swung the primary in your favor. They end up just having so many niche use cases.
Yeah, they also have like a psychological effect on your opponent where like because no one likes sitting behind cover doing nothing while taking shots.
Exactly.
So it kind of forces an interaction.
Stuff like people bringing servitors and stuff just for cheap units to home backfield and stuff like that. It really does just punish them for just hitting them with these mortars.
You brought a single chaos spawn.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets rid of these things. Like, I did this against World Eaters in the final round of this event. I just killed all 3 of his spawn with these mortars, because I didn't really have anything else they were very good into in this match.
Nice.
But yeah, I think it's just a good for like 350 points. No, 450 points, I think it is, for the total investment.
It's just
give or take. It's just under, I think.
5 each, so yeah, it's like 435, sorry.
Yeah, they're 435. I think it's worth it. I think it's just nice. It's good amount of fire. I hate the variance of it. I hate that it's D6 shots in the mortar. There's a lot of things I don't love about it. Let's not get me wrong, but they are just durable units sometimes. They are just durable things that sit there and are good. They're natively good.
Yeah, I think that's a good argument. So, yeah, what were you going to say? I know Aiden's got opinions on this.
Just obviously he was talking about his final game against World Eaters, but just to be a bit, I don't know what the word is, noticeable of time or whatever. Just to be aware of time. Let's actually talk about the first game and not the last game, and let's actually get into your actual event experience. So do you want to talk us through your first round opponent? Because that is the rest of the list, isn't it? Pre-PvCs and that's it.
Yeah, I'm going to summarize a lot of this about my opponent's list. If you want more details, you can obviously go look this up. This is CAG BASH, I believe 14 or 16. I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, if you sort of just give us like a generalized like overview of like their list, like archetype, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't worry about going into all the relics and whatnot. Like I said, if people are interested, they can go and find it themselves.
Exactly. So this was a pretty standard creation of Biles list. Bunch of Possessed, a big Terminator Breakbit with Black Rune, a few Venom Crawlers, all the things you'd expect to see out of a list like this. This game went pretty easily. I basically just went first, I believe, in this matchup. So I walked up, shot my mortars into, I believe, just a Terminator brick, just to like get 1 or 2 blink fire off on them. Just like maybe take a wound off with all 3. Didn't really have any shots, just walked up. He walked up as well because it was the 3 objectives down the middle and then 1 each in our deployment zone on Dawn of War. So I walked up, or I ran with my Terminators. He ran, and then I was able to get the first charge off. And turn 1, I basically just put absolutely everything I had. Double, all 3 Plague Bursts went into it, all my Terminator shots, everything that could shoot a gun, everything that could smite went into this Terminator break. Because he failed his Feel No Pain from being Slanesh.
You gotta capitalize on that.
Yeah, I absolutely just try to hit him with everything. Plague Skull of Glorfilla, everything. I threw the kitchen sink at him. And then I charged with Double Plague Drone, the Terminators, Demon Prince, and the Unit Terminators, and the Foul Blight Spawn. They all charged him, and they one-shot the unit in one turn.
Yeah, once that unit's gone, that's a big advantage. You still got your full Terminator brick, they've lost theirs. They have no like anvil anymore, and that's just like your game then. I just picked off his Possessed one at a time. I believe secondaries real fast were Spread the Sickness, no prisoners, I believe, for 14 or 13, and then it was Fleeing Vectors, I believe is what it was. I don't quote me on that. I'll have to look at. I can look at the game later, but something around those 3 is what I remember taking. You have to remember this is like 3 weeks in the future, so I don't want anybody to just be like, technically those 2 are in the same category.
I can't remember if this was on your list or not, so maybe you didn't miss it just for the people listening. You didn't have the Biologist Putrefier, did you? You weren't proccing mortal wounds on 6s just when you were fighting into his grenade, his Terminator bomb, or did you have that in the list? Just because obviously, just when you talk about infaming the Slanesh spell, that obviously would have been like a clutch moment to have had that.
It would have. I wish I did. I honestly just had to use the +1 to wound strat just to really try to get the most damage out of him. Out of my unit, because they're so unbelievably durable with that Black Rune, the Loot Tree Supplication. Ugh. Yeah, all of the gross stuff.
So you just weathered the storm, basically. You just think you say roll dice. I suppose having Arts Contaminator there and the Black Rune, it's a good kind of counter, isn't it? So you know, wound at -1, but then you reroll no wounds. Did that come in clutch?
Yes, being Plague Weapons came in very clutch. I did not have Arch Contamination. Did you say I had Arch Contamination?
Oh, right. So I just instantly assumed, sorry.
I did not. I just hit him hard. I shot him with triple Plague Burst Crawler, popped the strat for the 1 to do damage flat 3, Just absolutely put everything I had into him. Double smited.
You threw the kitchen sink at him, Will. The entire sink.
I triple smite him. I didn't even try to extend my contagion range. I just triple smite him. And just had a drone that was in his face already. That was the third drone that didn't charge. Was just there to give contagion and shooting.
Nice.
To the unit.
Nice. I mean, that's really good, I suppose. I mean, you mentioned there, I don't know if it's still called veterans, but the +1 to wound. I suppose that's a direct counter there to the black room. So I suppose, with contagions, would you have been wounding them on 2s, rerolling 1s anyway, or were you wounding them on 3s?
No, I believe it was wounding. So what is it? Okay, let me do the math again. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. I think it's 3s or 4s still, even with the +1.
Wow.
With reroll 1s, yeah. Because even it's just still -1, yeah. And they had, I don't think it was Marketer. I don't remember what he had his thing with, but I believe it was 3 or 4 still. I don't think I was wounding him very easily, even with everything going right.
Nice. So did you? So once you sort of beat his Terminator brick down, as you said, you went and picked off the other units. Did you find from that point you were just kind of like mopping things up and putting pressure on the objectives and making him kind of...
Absolutely. I basically just walked up with Plague Marines onto the objective, and the new Possessor just terrible at killing Plague Marines because they're damage 2, they're AP 2, I get like 5 ups, and then I just am OBSEC. He just doesn't have enough resources to deal with me, and I basically just got to slowly walk him down.
Nice. That's really good.
So a nice, easy sort of first game there to break you in a little bit.
Yep. Game 2 was against another buddy of mine, David Stein. I'm so sorry, David, for botching your name there. But yeah, he was running Custodes. So this is one of the time you can't take fleeing vectors. They just don't have enough models to kill.
Watch me.
Yeah, watch me. So I believe I took Warp. No, this is the game I got punished. I took Mental Interrogate and scored miserably on that. Also took I took Spread the Sickness every game. I don't think there was a single game I didn't take Spread the Sickness.
Yeah, it's just such a nice auto take.
Yeah, it scored an 11 in one game and I believe a 15 in every other game.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like a really safe 11 worst case, and then like if you have even a bet just slightly above average game, it's 15.
Yeah. I'm blanking on what I don't think this is the game I took. What's the third secondary? I always forget the name of because it's so terrible. You should never take it. Despoiled Ground, I believe, is what I took against him. Which is.
Did you go second?
Yes, I did.
Nice.
Yes, this game I went second.
It's a great secondary if you go second. If you go first, I agree, it's one of the riskiest secondaries in the game, and I also really, really try hard to avoid that. But I know Aiden kind of finds quite good. You do quite well with it, don't you, Aiden?
Yeah, I take it quite a lot, but I play a very wide MSU list, so I have a lot of stuff that can go and die. I don't play a big brick. I imagine you play a big brick, obviously that's almost a quarter of your list. That's in one unit, and obviously they can't be everywhere at once. So yeah, I can see why Despoiled's not the pick for that one.
Despoiled actually is pretty good when you if you're winning the game with this list. It's really easy to get your characters to all run off and start getting the contagion round and getting those models in the deployment zones and stuff. And that's basically what happened. I basically just the Custodes line up terribly into flesh mowers is what we found out that game. Because I think turn 2 I killed all but 2 total bikes. With all three drones killed 9. The Terminators plus 3 drones killed 9 Custodian bikes, 8 Custodian bikes.
Oh, so this was quite a bike spam list.
Yeah, this was 10. Oh, it was 10 bikes in total. It was 10 bikes in total.
It's still quite a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. And then a bunch of Venatari, and then 2 units of guard, and then Trajan, and then.
Wait, you killed 9 turn 1.
Turn 1 or 2. Yeah, turn 1 I think it was, and then turn.
Yeah, that's game.
sorry. It was 7 turn 1, and then on his turn 2, we were still in combat, and he killed a drone, but the 2 drones still in combat with the rest of the bikes killed 2 more on his turn because that's all there was left in combat.
Brutal.
And then he had 2 bikes remaining that just he pulled out of combat for the one, and the other one was the bike captain that never was in combat yet. And then on my turn 2, I killed Trajan. I would have killed Trajan perfectly, but he actually used Moment Shackle, which I've never seen done before, to zero out the damage of a mower and stabilize with 1 wound there. But then the drone blew up the immediate following combat, like the same combat phase, and took Trajan out with him because he failed his 4-up Feel No Pain.
Nice. I mean, it was some smart play on your opponent's part there to see that and do it. And I'm guessing when you were killing the bikes, I'm guessing that's also where the Plague Burst Crawlers came in clutch, because obviously each failed wound is likely a dead bike.
Yeah, but if you low roll, they apparently lived. I remember this happening vividly. It took like 3. I rolled a 4 into a 4, and then he re-rolled. Like I just failed. I just like low rolled the damage 3 times in a row, and it was like 4 damage, 4 damage, 4 damage, and I was like, okay, this hurts. But we got through it.
Keep leaving them alive on 1 wound, and then the 4 damage just finishes the guy off, and you're like, this could have been a whole bike. Yep.
That hurts the most is when it's something like that.
Yeah, that sod's law happens every time.
So how did the sort of Despoiled Ground go then? Obviously, if you pulled the game out, it sounds like Despoiled Ground worked wonders for you there.
Yeah, I believe I just literally was. It was mission 11, so it was just basically just being like on the objectives with everybody already. The Terminators basically walked up the left side of the board and was controlling 2 objectives because they were just strung out. I did the triangles, if you guys know what that is, where you basically just set up these 3-man triangles, keep your unit in coherency, and just did that across 2 objectives, because he didn't really have any answer to the Terminators anymore, and I'm like, I'm just going to spread the sickness on this objective and then this objective with Terminators, because I've got nothing better to do with them, because they don't really do anything to Custodians, they're not in combat. And then he just had so little left in his list, I was able to chase him down.
Nice. So they just stood there, 1 turn spread on 1, 2nd turn spread on another, and he just, at that point, he was sort of happy just to leave them and go and sort of fight what he felt was more attainable on the other side of the board then.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, the list just kind of crumpled once he lost so many bikes turn 1 and 2. Like I said, those flesh mowers line up amazingly well into the bikes. Being strength 6 but -1 toughness just shreds the bikes.
You really exploit them being damage 2 as well, don't you? Because whenever you play Custodes, I always find that as soon as you're half the damage, sometimes they just don't have enough to get through. I think is it the bike captain? I think mathematically, maybe if you can't kill a demon prince. There's one of the carries they always take, and mathematically it's impossible for him to kill a demon prince in 1 round of combat. I think he's only got 7 damage 2 attacks. So
yeah, it's very tragic for him. They actually don't do a lot. He used his bike captain to hide up 2 of my Plague Burst Crawlers, and over like the span of 3 or 4 turns, they inevitably killed him with entry cannons hitting on like 4s, wounding on wounding on 4s because he used the strat. And eventually he just failed enough saves and he died, but he did hold up 2 Plague Burst Crawlers for an entire game, which is big.
Yeah, I must admit, like in games with Custodians, I don't know if it happened to you in that one or any other games, but I've often, like as Death Guard, I've took a charge from a Custodians and I'm like, oh, this is gonna hurt, and then like I'll lose like 2 models and I'm like, oh, alright.
Yeah, they have to be in big bricks, don't they, to have enough attacks to get through.
Yeah, that's the big thing, because those are all damage to the army, and that's just not what you want to be into Death Guard. Like they kind of just bounce off the Terminator brick in most scenarios, which is heartbreaking when you're a Custodian. Bouncing is one of the worst things that can happen to you.
So, obviously we'll move on to the next match for a second, but I just thought something we should probably sort of ask you here. Because obviously one of the things that's quite important at events is terrain. I know, obviously, over in your part of the world, there's a lot of player-placed terrain. What was the terrain that you were playing on, and, how did you think that had much impact on the game?
So, it was day 1, so the first 3 rounds were GW3, and day 2 was GW2.
Oh, nice. So it was GW, so it's like the perspex with the terrain, and then the perspex becomes, it's solid until you touch it.
So GW3 is really, it's very good. Yeah, it's got the plastic and everything like that. The big problem was GW. I don't know if you've seen GW3, but there's a big piece of terrain in the middle of the board that you would think is obscuring, but it's just not. And if you it's like a sizable piece in most of the time when we were looking at it. And if you ever look at GW3 overlaid onto Data Scry Salvage the map, all 4 of those objectives are dead in the open. There is no way to hide on those objectives.
Oh, I have seen this.
This is absolutely this we're going to talk about this here in a second in round 3, because I think that leads into a huge reason of how I won this game. Because
I believe I saw one of the high ranked like global like ITC overall players, and I believe he quoted as GW terrain set free as ass.
Yeah. You can't. There's like no room to hide or anything on the middle 4 objectives down the line of the table on Deus Grace Salvage. It is just a shooting gallery from one end of the table to the other across 4 objectives. The only safe spot on the entire, because it's 2 forests are the only piece of terrain between all 4 objectives, and they're not obscuring.
So, knowing that we have a map now, which is a complete shooting gallery, which like with no cover, what was your round 3 opponent?
It was Astra Militarum.
What?
Yeah.
And you won?
Yeah, and I won. Shockingly, you guys seem like you're down on the Terminator brick, but man, guardsmen cannot stand on an objective in the open, is what we found out that day, especially with +1 to hit exploding 6s. So every turn the Terminator brick could shoot, they picked up just swaths of guardsmen.
Nice.
I'm not in your shooting gallery, you're in mine.
Yeah. And it's just every turn I got to absolutely shred his infantry. This game I for sure took fleeing vectors. I think I capped it turn 2 or turn 3 at the latest.
Nice.
Because I was just in combat with a drone. He failed to kill a drone, which was heartbreaking, on 1 wound, and failed to kill a Plague Burst Crawler on 5 wounds that I just made on top bracket the whole game. So his shooting phase was kind of just lackluster turn 1. I didn't really give him any lines for a Scion bomb. He only had one sorry, I said Scion. Castrican bomb. I baited him into my backfield because he took Assassinate, because my list does give up Assassinate, and that is intentional on my behalf. I want my opponents to feel like they can take Assassinate, but
Assassinate versus Death Guard is such a trap. The amount of times I've had it done against me.
I don't think I've let anybody score a 15 on me yet.
Especially if you're running a cherry brick as well, and you just put everyone in the middle and you're like, yeah, have fun with that.
Exactly, yeah. I don't think I've let anybody score more than a 10 with
nice.
this. But I put 2 characters in my backfield. I'm like, if you want to teleport, you can come kill these 2 characters. They are literally the only thing you can see if you teleport to my backfield. And then like there's a Plague Burst Crawler that's hidden behind the other side of the wall. And so he took the bait. He came and killed my Tallyman and one of my Plague Casters I left back there. And then the Plague Burst Crawler just walked back and shot and killed the only super big threat on the table, I felt like, and was able to just stabilize that backfield. And for the rest of the game, I basically just got to bully him off objectives, and I really made sure to make sure turn 1 and 2 that my Plague Drones and my Plague Burst Crawlers just took care of his 2 Legion Russes and his basically anything that could hurt the Terminator brick. And the Terminator brick just inevitably walked across the table and was able to actually table him this game.
Nice.
I believe the score was I'm gonna say it was less than a 45 for him. And I believe sorry, I actually have the score right here. 37 to 100.
Wow.
Is what the actual score was at the end of the game.
So was this like a fairly like standard like guard list?
No, I will give it to Jared. We played yesterday at the RTT and he brought it back. I believe it was 80 to 98. Which actually should have been 100. We miscalculated the points, and I actually should have gotten 100. He messaged me later about it, but not too heartbroken about that. But he scored much better the second time, and I think he had a much more refined list in that game. Jared, I think you played great, and I think you're getting better every time I see you. So yeah. I cannot say the same about Elijah Crooker's list. That is the tier 1, I would say. Metaguard list with triple Castrican, Ratlings, Marbo for boots on the ground, Scout Sentinels with plasma, 5 Legion Russes, just all of the mortars you can imagine, just everything.
All the good / bad shit.
Yep, all of the good stuff.
Just before we get into explaining this game, how did you? Obviously, I imagine you were very elated after day 1, but how did you feel when you saw this? Like, this is your next matchup.
So I believe I'm gonna go on a limb. I believe the matches were not random within points. It was who you're fighting the night before. If you just look at the ranking.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so I hate that. It should always be random, in my opinion. Win, loss, then random, at least.
Yeah, in the UK, it's normally random within your bracket, so people who've won 3 play other people who've won 3.
Exactly. This was just win, loss, then points. So I didn't know that at the time, but I still like want to look at people's lists and who's winning in the brackets. So I was looking through lists, and I looked at this list, and I'm like, God, I hope I don't fight him. I feel pretty okay in the rest, but God, I do not want to play against this.
So how did you feel when you saw that you were against that?
Much worse. But I felt really good because this is mission. I believe don't quote me on this. It's mission 31, where we're 18 inches apart. The like weird like. I get the bottom left table corner. You get the top right, and we're 9 inches from the center objective, the center of the board. So we only start 18 apart, which does make me feel a lot better. Because I get to basically walk up and control the middle of the board with my Terminators if I run with them turn 1. So I went for a Hail Mary play on this mission. I put everything on the line. Everything. Like dead, like on the line. But like 20 Poxwalkers like in my backfield. And I said, I really hope I go first. Because if I go second, I probably just lose. And we rolled the dice, and I went second. But you guys know this is a 5-0 list we're talking about. So something had to get right here. So he rolled up. His Kashkin bomb went to my backfield, killed, kind of low rolled the damage, even with full rerolls and everything from Lord Solar. Kind of low rolled that, didn't really do as much as he wanted to do. He put all of his tanks and everything else basically into killing 3 of my Blight drones, and failed to kill him, and had to go for a Hail Mary to kill the last one on 1 wound. And then he failed to kill it. And so nice. The last thing he had to shoot was, I don't remember the name of it. It's the railgun equivalent of a guard tank, or of a Lehman Russ. I know
the one you mean. Is it the Rogel Dawn? Is that the Rogel Dawn?
No, I'm talking about the weapon on a Lehman Russ specifically. It's something battle cannon. It's a bigger battle cannon. It's the like 1-shot, strength 1 billion, AP 5, no invuln.
Yeah.
Yeah. He shot that and rolled a 1 to wound, re-rolled it, and rolled a 2 to wound against the Plague Bush Crawler because he didn't want to put it into the 1 drone with 1 wound remaining.
I bet you were so happy when that happened.
Yeah, he was like, this hurts me so much. Because this Plague Bush Crawler is only on 7 wounds remaining or whatever, so it's an insta-kill if it connects. Because even with the reduce, the mortal will instantly kill it, no matter what he does, if it connects. And thankfully, it just didn't connect for me. And I had maybe one of the most devastating psychic phases I've ever had with Death Guard. I believe I got 2 super smites off, which nice. I don't think ended up mattering in the grand scheme, because I ended up not being able to shoot, I believe, with my Terminator brick, because I killed everything in line of sight in the psychic and with all my other shooting. But I killed 3 to 4 3.5 Lehman Russes, I believe it was, turn 1.
Wow. So was this with the play burst course? So give us a quick sort of breakdown as to how that sort of unfolded.
So yeah, I walked up, since I'm on the line, everything is on the line. I literally was like, if I go second, I'm probably losing. But if like we weather the storm, we're in a good spot. And so we walked up with the Terminators, walked up with characters. We ran a unit of Plague Marines, I believe, on the center point, and we just walked at him, and we psychicked 1 Lehman Russ to death with we had the 1 super smite that rolled a 6 mortals. We plague skulled it, and we smited it 2 more times with the prince and the other guy, and then we got a few mortals through, and it like perfectly killed 1 Lehman Russ. So it probably wasn't actually that great, because I think the plague skull did like 4 or 5 mortals. It probably rolled a little bit hot, and then the 6 from the 1, and then it perfectly killed with 2 other smites and the 7 pluses. So I think it was really like averagely, I think we mathed out to still killing it. But it felt way more impactful because we had like the super smite and like everything else going for it. So it just felt more impactful. But the Demon Prince was able to charge 1 of the Lehman Russes and drop it to half. The Terminators were able to, because they just walked forward and they didn't have anything to shoot, they were able to charge a Chimera and tag his Lehman Russ, but not charge it, because it was just too far of an extra charge to really risk for. I believe it was like an 8 or a 9-inch charge into his Chimera that was up just like close to the point to try to steal it if I killed the Chimera with the guardsman with the Casterkin inside. So basically I charged in. I just got all the way across the battlefield right there, basically, was the huge thing. And all my drones were dead, basically, but the one that's rocking around with the Demon Prince, so it just dies instantly. But the Plague Burst Crawlers were able to drop the other 2 Leman Russes in shooting, I believe.
Nice.
By themselves, basically. The 3 Leman Russes were able to do it, along with Plague Marine assistance. Plague Marines were within rapid fire range. I put both units on the right side of the table to walk towards his side of the battlefield and take an objective and maybe spread the sickness. So those 2 units were able to really, like, they're shooting, 8 plasma gun shots within contagion range of something, and just be able to put damage on a Leman Russ. Because if you're strength 8 and they're -1 toughness, like, you're still doing damage. Yeah, so we managed to cripple all of his Leman Russes, if not kill them. And then he just didn't really have any, and we killed, he had one more caster bomb he could use, but it was actually tagged by the Terminators, getting that long bomb, the 8-inch charge on the Chimera, piling it, and consolidating. So I only needed an 8, but I rolled, I believe, a 10 or something. So it just allowed me to get into some more optimal positioning. And then he just didn't really have answers for the Plague Burst Crawlers and the Terminator Brick anymore. And so I spent the rest of that game really just walking into his zone and charging everything.
Nice. So just mopping things up.
Yep, just mopping stuff up. He just really didn't have answers for the Terminators anymore. And that was a 98-63 point win.
Oof, nice.
Very nice. So what was next then? So,
well, just before we do that, Will, it's just like me and Will said a couple of days ago, like, obviously as you come into this game, you've looked at it and gone, right, I need to basically like pray at this point, because that's a tough list. When you look at that list, that's not like something you expect to win. So, and if you're going for these 5-0s, like that was your goal, you could have easily been like, right, I might lose this one, but I'll play it safe, score good, and get a good 4-1. And if you want to go for that 5-0, sometimes you have to take that crazy play, like you did, just going on the line and get a whole pray in. And even though you didn't even get first this time, it still paid off for you. And sometimes that's the shit you have to do. And you obviously did that with a conscious decision, knowing that if it didn't pay off, chances are you're going to get a low scoring loss. But, you know, sometimes that's just the risk you got to take. And me and Will did talk about this. Like, if you ever approach a game and you think there's no way I'll win unless I get first and something crazy happens, then just weigh it up in your head. Do you want to win? Yeah, I want to try and win. Play the crazy. So
this is exactly how I felt. At this point, I understand I'm going 4-1. I have a very high score across all of my games. I think the lowest I scored was an 84. So I'm looking like I'm in contention no matter what. So I really need to decide whether I'm just going to passively score or if I'm going to go for broke here. And I kind of was like, you know what? If I'm going to win this game, I have to take secondaries I don't think are good, or like I'm going to have to take 15s and just crush him. And if I don't crush him, well, we lost anyways, and we're just hopefully just gonna to get some points here.
Yeah.
But this game we took, this one I believe we took no prisoners. We took the infamous Despoiled Ground, and I believe we took so spread, no prisoners, and Despoiled Ground for the 3 we took. And we deployed on the line, got ready to do our thing, where it's like, oh man, we went second last game. We were more favored to go first this game. What's the idiot's philosophy of this? My terrible warped perception of how this should work. I'm like, I've gone second a lot this weekend. I'd really like to go first. And I went second.
Your heart must have dropped a little bit on that roll.
Yeah, I went second. And he pregame moved 2 units of 5. What's it called? And obviously you guys see this is a 5-0 video, so something had to go right for me. He failed a 4-inch charge with a reroll into my lines with a 5-man. What are they called? They're not possessed. I almost man, why am I forgetting the name here? I've got 8 of these boxes right next to me. Let me see what it is. 8-bound. Normal 8-bound. He failed a 4-inch re-rolling 4-inch charge 8-bound.
Wow.
Turn 1 on the line against my army. And that was probably the single most important play that got made that game that happened for me. Me and him both, because the end of the score, I'm going to spoil it, it's 93-96. So this was still an unbelievably close game.
Oh yeah, that's close.
And he just slightly failed to charge, and we both chalk up this game win to that moment right there. And we both talked about it. He's like, it's a variance game. It happens occasionally, and it is something outside of your control. It's not unfailable. It's not a guaranteed charge. He also is like, I made the decision not to move my Lord and Vacatus up and give them that 2-inch movement to make it a guaranteed charge. I chose to make that because I wanted to win as well. This also is on the other foot of, we both went for the money play. We both went for the thing that will win us the event. And we both agreed that it's correct not to move Lord and Vacatus there. Both understood the threat that could happen. He could fail this 4-inch charge, but we're both willing to go for broke here and attempt to win the game.
Nice. So what second
I just want to sorry, can I just say real quick, Will? A lot of people online recently have been saying like the initial reaction to Death Guard going 5-0 because people have this warped perception that Death Guard are unplayable trash. A lot of people in the replies on certain things regarding to this win, mate, were saying, oh, so he just got lucky then, it wasn't actually skill. And I just want to say to those people, if you think just luck alone gets you to a 5-0, then I can definitely tell you've never gone 5-0 before. But basically, there is an element of luck in everything. Like, yeah, sure, that roll in Garrett's in the point, like as Garret said, probably did decide that game, but it didn't decide the game before that, the game before that, the game before that, or the game before that. And you still had to play your heart out on this one, even though that roll may have determined it. It still wasn't like a free game after that roll. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely not. It was a 3-point differential. I still had to play this game well because he did just have better secondaries than me, and I had to win because I took this spoiled ground. I had to win the game, so it did take a lot of craftsmanship to really get into those positions. And a lot of this just went... things did go well for me, and I ham it up a little bit, but I've also played 27 events last year, so minimum 3 games each. I've played almost 100 roughly almost 100 tournament games, not including like GTs and stuff, last year alone. So it takes a lot to even be there. I've been 4-1 a lot in the past. Every event, every GT I've played in, you can get a little bit lucky, but I would say this is a quote that really stuck with me. If you both are equally skilled players, dice will have some impact on a game. If you guys are both playing at your peak and you both are good players with similarly matched armies, because I think most of the armies in the game are similarly matched at the moment, even if I rank an army D tier versus an S tier army, you can still win against those armies. Yeah, you're not favored, but you can. It's still like, it's not like rock paper scissors. There's still like a 30-70 win rate. So 3 out of 10 games you win, I'll take those odds. It's never an auto loss, and you have to remember that. Even though it may feel like it, you just need to go for broke plays. And I'll be honest with you guys, it doesn't always pay off. These tactics do not always work out, and that is a downside. These are things that happen, but that is true with every army in 40k basically at the moment. Is that you have to take risks in almost every aspect of this game. You're even no matter how the odds are, you're taking a risk that you're going to be able to kill these units, or these things aren't going to be able to kill you. And you just have to weigh these and really leave it to chance in some regards.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I think the reality is, even the best player in the world still needs luck. Do you know what I mean? And also luck can go against you as well. Sometimes you could be on for a 5-0, and then the dice. Like you talked about your friend there, the World Eaters, who failed his prone to rollable charge. That could just as easily have been you. And like you say, it's kind of a who dares win situation, isn't it? If you don't take the chances, then you've no chance of winning. So it's and obviously you've shown this with the list, and it's gone really well. And so coming back to the World Eaters match. So what did you take in terms of your secondaries? And because obviously it sounds like, although that 4-inch rerollable charge had an impact on the game, it still sounds like from the score there was still a hell of a long way to go before you'd actually sort of sealed the deal.
Yeah, so it was, like I said, it was spread the sickness, no prisoners, and, sorry, I had the spoiled ground. So I was really going for broke that I need to basically table him or beat him into the ground to win this game. I was going for, I am going to just be able to put enough, you're not going to be able to do enough damage to me, and I'm going to be able to kill everything you had. Nice. And that worked. The only thing I failed to kill on his list was a Rhino. And I still had all but my Demon Prince alive, characters-wise, and like a few Plague Marines, and I believe 2 Plague Burst Crawlers. So we still had a decent amount left at the end of the game to really finish up the score. And I believe at the end of 4, the end of my turn 4, the only thing he had remaining was the Rhino. So you can kill these armies. They're not unkillable. Yes, they do a lot of damage, but you can play around them to a degree. I know they are very fast and very scary, but screens do help. Stuff like Poxwalkers, especially the thing with the Revolting Stitch Vat and stuff. Just like having that and being able to screen out his charges and stuff just helps so much into armies that are this powerful.
Yeah, but the fact they only play the one phase, because I sort of, as I mentioned in the podcast, I've just played a tournament this weekend as well. So I played 2 World Eaters lists. So if anyone follows the meta, the first World Eaters list was against a guy called Peter Duff, who's good in our meta. He's formerly Chaos Knights, plays Chaos Demons. We had a game and I tabled him quite comfortably in the end, but I'll be honest, he had some unlucky dice, but then I played World Eaters the following game, just a sort of when I played a guy called Ed Watts, who last weekend we have the LGT is like a big sort of tournament series in the UK. Where was the one last weekend, Aiden? Can you remember?
It was Southampton, I think.
Southampton. And Ed Watts, a guy played second, a guy came third in that tournament. That was, I think, 200 plus players. And playing him, you know, I felt the other side of World Eaters, where it was still a close game to some extent, but World Eaters secondaries were, you know, they just scored them so easily that it's hard to sort of compete in that sense. But like you said, if you bring it to them and you think, right, I'm just going to table you, it is doable, because there were kind of similar lists, those 2 examples. And the game I played, the previous one, I tabled him in 3 turns fully. You know, he didn't have a model left on the table. And I say, although there was some lucky dice on my side, we've talked about luck is part of this, but it's possible to do with this, because they are, as much as they kill anything they touch or have the potential to, they also fall over incredibly easily. And I found my flesh mode MVP in that game. So I think what you said about the strategy there, it probably is a bit of an uphill battle. And I played the one today, it was the second one. I did play a bit more cautiously. I played them the previous days. I kind of thought, I've got a bit more of a handle here. I think I can tell this better. But in hindsight, I think the thing to do is just go, kill as much as you can, and like you say, play for the win. And at the end, if it's gone the way you wanted, despoiled grounds on the, you know, it's on the table for you. You know, it's on a plate.
Yeah, I really think this. I want to make a video on this in the future, and I think this is something that a lot of people need to have mindsets for. If you're in an RTT versus a GT, I think you need to think about your secondaries and what you want to do in this event. Do you want to go for one? Do you want a podium? Do you want, like, the mindset difference between an RTT and a GT are very different. Because an RTT, normally all you have to do is win your 3 rounds and you'll podium in some regard. If you want to win an event, you have to be willing to make these really tough and dangerous decisions a lot of the time.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you know, you're right in what you say. You know, despoiled grounds, you know, being sort of like there is, I'm trying to give that example. Despoiled ground, I look at World Eaters, makes me think, God, I'm going to have no models left. This isn't going to be possible. But then that first game when I kind of, you know, I tabled him in 3 turns, I could have maxed despoiled grounds. You know, it would be the easiest max despoiled ground ever. So it just goes to show that it is possible. And though I didn't plan that strategy and dice kind of came in, I didn't actually take a secondary. But when you said you did take a secondary, the fact that World Eaters it is actually possible to table them, you know, if you weather the storm and you get the first punches in. You know, I think if you're going to go for a win, sometimes you have to do that kind of thing. And although I didn't do it, and you know, in hindsight, maybe that was a mistake on my part. You know, I decided to try and play a bit more cagey and took engage and had to put models where I didn't necessarily want them. Whereas, you know, if you just run at things, it might be better.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so I think the fact that you've proved, you know, with some of the sort of tokens of your strategies and things, it sounds like you've kind of put that into action and thought, as Aiden said earlier, there's no point in playing for a draw or you know a loss and playing for points. Sometimes just go for it if you think you can, because I've definitely been too conservative in some games. I'm sure a lot of people listening will sort of think the same. And then we've come back from events, talked to Aiden. Aiden's like, why did you take that second? You were never going to get 15. And I've been like, well, the odds of getting 15 are very stacked against you. And Aiden's been like, well, you know, gamblers gamble, and sometimes gambles pay off.
Yes, exactly. But again, this is also my rendition of a list. I've played Death Guard for a very long time, and I have my opinions on some of these things. And I'm playing things that I don't necessarily like, but I see the efficiency in them. I understand what makes these good, and I do think there's optimization in other lists that work. I don't think this is the only way to play Death Guard. I definitely think if there is things that you feel like are better, definitely feel free to try those. Experimentation is something that is woefully underused in 40k. I think the best chances you're going to have at events are not bringing the cookie cutter best list from players, but really something that you put the time into experimenting with and trying out into different things and really weighing your risks.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. So obviously it sounds like we've covered quite a lot of topics. So I think, you know, it might be nice to sort of have like a bit of a roundtable discussion now. Maybe it's just for 10-15 minutes just to box it off and talk about some of the list ideas and maybe some of the concepts you've thought about. You know, maybe you've been playing a battle scribe with something different. You know, what are some of the things that you've looked at, and then that can feed nice into sort of something Aiden's been thinking about his list, and that sort of, you know, can be something that, you know, give some people some food for thought. Because, you know, after these games that you've had, was there anything you thought, you know, maybe this unit would be better, or, you know, start the concept from the ground up? Is there anything else you've been thinking about or looking to experiment with?
Oh, that is a tough one. I tried the Forge World Demon Prince for real ones on the Blight drones and the Plagueburst crawlers. You have to bring in a demon detachment. At the end of the day, I just don't think it's worth it. That's personally me. I just didn't have a lot of success with it. I really didn't think he really paid off in the regards of the other Demon Prince that I was bringing. I'd really like to mess around with Typhus instead of the Demon Prince and maybe try something there. Yeah. Maybe with a few more Poxwalkers, who knows, in the future. But those are really the things I'm experimenting with at the moment. I used to play a 15 spawn list back when we started with 12 CP. I'd really like to look at bringing back maybe a few units just because they're so cheap and efficient now.
I think that's an interesting thing. Yeah, that's a good shout. And I mean, because you mentioned there about the Demon Prince Mammon Transfigured, isn't it? I share your thoughts on him. The reason I share your thoughts is that flipping Plague Bear attacks. If you could take Mammon and 2 units of Nurglings, I think it's probably worth it, or at least it's worth toying with more. But as soon as you had the 120, 130 for the 10 Plague Bears that you have to take, it's like, why are they here? What are they doing? Like, all the other things, you know, it's a mower. It's more than a mower, isn't it? And you know, it's not worth dropping a mower for some Plague Bears, you know, if you put it in those kind of contexts.
Absolutely. I feel the same, that the Plague Bears just don't do enough on their own a lot of the time. At least in my experience right now, I just don't think they're worth it. The other thing is the 60 Plague Marine list is something I'm working on. I have 100 and some Plague Marine, but I don't have them all with the... I had 6 of every special weapon at one point, or even more than that at some point. But now I need more plasma and power fist and stuff to run to like the 12 5-man squads of Plague Marines for the most efficient output. So I gotta get that ready to go. But that's a list I want to try soon. I'm going for #1 Death Guard this year.
Oh, you and Aiden are going to be... So we'll have to get you back, and you and Aiden will have to have an update on how you're both getting on.
Yeah, I'm number 3 right now with 2 events. So I have the lowest number of events, I believe, in the top 10 with the highest placement in the top 10 Death Guard. So that will be that'll be a good score to work out for the rest of the year, I think.
There you go. So you and Aiden literally going head to head.
Yeah.
Well, like we say, we'll have to get you back. See, so I mean, I was going to ask Aiden, because Aiden's been messaging me this week, because we have a big tournament coming up in where we're based in Manchester. So I mentioned about the guy playing Ed Watts. He done well in another one. We take travels around the UK, and they're always 200 plus players. I don't know how big Manchester is this year, but it might be 300 plus. I know Aiden normally does quite well at these events, that's where he gets a lot of his points going, 5-0 or 4-1. So Aiden had some sort of list ideas. I thought maybe this might be an idea to sort of talk some of those to Aiden. Maybe Garrett's got some thoughts and help you with some of your decision making.
Well,
maybe I should sabotage him so I can really set my position. No, I'm joking. Yeah. Now that we're against each other, Checking.
I had a list until about 10 minutes ago, and they just updated the FAQ and made it illegal. So that's cool.
Oh.
And the deadline is literally tonight midnight. So yeah.
Oh no.
They've ruled that Typhus does actually break Plague Company, so Typhus Inexorable is no longer legal in UKTC.
I'm glad you said that. But it's an FAQ. Is this going to say that it's against Arks or something?
What's in the Arks book?
Well, because there's an FAQ, I can send you the FAQ that it says you can put them in another list even though they're not from the same Plague Company. It doesn't break it.
If you could send me that'd be helpful.
GW, yeah, I'll send you that. So I don't know where that's come from. That's like the first 6 months of the codex being out. That
I would say message your TO for sure. Like right now.
Well, they've put that, and they've got a direct answer from him. It states he doesn't prevent the contagions, aka the wall trait. However, it also doesn't say that he allows the rest, like relics and strats.
What?
Yeah.
That's I've only really ran him in Terminus S Assault Force, so they're ruling it that way. That absolutely blows because I would love to use Typhus.
Yeah, I was using Typhus in a playcaster so that I could save the points and I'm going to take like a Lord or something. Yeah, that kind of sucks because now I've got to find like, I have to swap in another playcaster and a Lord of Virulence, something like that, and drop 50 points elsewhere, and I was already like struggling to fit everything in.
Yeah, that's so if you want my advice for a quick swap here, you got 3 spawn laying around, an extra playcaster.
I do actually.
That's my recommendation if you have to make a hotfix. It sucks to lose the reroll ones bubble, but 3 dead drop spawn units with pretty fast movement to get onto objectives and just maybe steal them from an opponent or just have them on objectives the opponent has to kill, and just in weird positioning, and an extra playcaster goes a long way.
Yeah, I definitely want the forecast, so like I've definitely got another playcaster in there. It's just whether I go wide with, like you said, spawn, or if I find points for a Lord. It depends how much I value the reroll ones, I suppose. It's the way to look at it.
Yeah.
Which it's not that we're not having reroll ones isn't a deal breaker. It's not like, you know.
Yeah, we have like +1 to hit for a strat and stuff, so it's not like end of the world.
Yeah, it's just mildly irritating to find out, like, you know, 2 hours before final deadline that they've just updated the ruling on it, and now it's like, nope, not allowed now. It's like, great.
I totally get it. That's super frustrating. I really hope there's some clarification on that then, because Typhus only being locked to Harbingers is not where we want to be.
Yeah, it's basically this Typhus is just kind of dead then.
Yeah, where Typhus is like Typhus is also just an awesome model to see.
Yeah, it's my favorite model in the entire game. It's like, I just love Typhus in like lore and everything. It's just I really was excited to run him.
I have all 3 versions of Typhus. I have the old metal one, I have the new one sitting right here, and I've got the 30k one. I love that model.
Yeah, 30k one's my favourite one as well, I think, in terms, because I'm like you, Garret. I actually also have ye olde Plague Marine. Some of mine stretch back the 90s, the metal ones, with the special weapons actually stuck to them. Then I've also got the Forge World one. So I'm a fan of the older scopes and the older aesthetic, and the Forge World one, he ticks that, doesn't he? He ticks all those boxes. With the mask on for me, though, I have to say, I don't like the alternate mask on head.
Yeah, I do not like the mask off head either. All of my Death Guard are actually painted in this sandy dust color with green shoulder pads. So they are all in the 30k aesthetic of Death Guard. So they're all tan. They all look. They're like just the mutated 30k with a little bit of weathering done to them. Basically, is the idea of my Death Guard. So they all pretty much match. Yeah, there's a little bit more run down because I absolutely love. I always loved Death Guard before they were in a faction in 40k. I loved the Horus Heresy Death Guard and those stories and stuff, even since I was a kid. So yeah, huge fan of the army. Nice.
Yeah, when I was a kid, because I think I'm a bit older than you, so I'm in my mid to late 30s, and when I was a kid, Death Guard didn't exist in anywhere other than the lore, so I used to play Chaos Space Marines with Nurgle Demons, but everything had to have the mark of Nurgle, so when Death Guard came out, I'd kind of been following it from a distance and thinking, I might get back into it, but then that kind of sealed the deal a little bit for me, and yeah, so I'm very much on the same wavelength with that one.
Yeah, I'm 24 years old. I've been playing for 14 years, So I've been playing for a hot second, but yeah, I ever since I was in high school and stuff, I've always wanted to have a Death Guard army from Forge World, and now that I'm an adult and I've making the big bucks, now I get to spend all this money on these sick toys I couldn't have when I was a kid.
Nice, yeah. I can empathise with that as well. A bit old, I've been playing for as long this time round, but yeah, the fact you've been going for 14 years, certainly stands, and it goes to show the people who listen to this, how skill does pay off, because the fact that you've got 14 years of skill behind you, and the fact you're going 5-0 events, I'm sure there's a link there. So obviously we're sort of coming to an end now, but I think because we've got you on here, Garret, I think one more question, that just to sort of general to finish off, because we know 10th edition is close, or if we believe the rumours or the hype. What would you like to see from 10th? Come on, wish list within reason, some Death Guard stuff.
Wish list within reason. I hope for a 9.5, an edition change just like 8th and 9th, where it's only some very good clarifications with minor tweaks for the overall health of the game. I really hope we don't hit Index Hammer again.
Yeah,
that was the
agree.
point that really, like I said, I took a break in 8th, 9th edition. So I started 8th, I played it for a bit, didn't really love it. Went to play a more competitive game like War Machine, even though it's in a bit more of a dire state. And I came back at the end of 8th edition when I heard 9th was coming out, and I was like, I'll give this a try again. Objectives look cool and stuff. So I'm really hoping for a very passive change. I think 40k is in a very good... We are so close to what I think is an optimal balance for 40k. It really would suck that in the last 6 months, give or take, we're going off rumors here, if in the last 6 months we had the best game balance we've had in the last 14 years. I think this is the best the games, even with the reset of all of the codexes, I think this is the best this game's ever been in, is right now.
So without wish listing for 10th then, because I'm sure we'd all have a toughness 9 Mortarian with the 2-up save and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure we'd all love that. But obviously, there is a balanced data slate around the corner as well, and as you know, we've made a topic on our podcast, and you said on yours you'd sort of agreed that with the Art of War state, the Death Guard are a D tier. What are some of the things that you think you'd like to see from the balanced data slate? What are some of the things that you think are realistic, and also, what do you think would benefit the army? Because I think that's hopefully a thing that we're going to see soon, and I'm sure people would like to hear what your thoughts are on that, having just gone 5-0.
That one's tough. That one's very tough. I would like to see our stratagems, because they were made way back in the day when we started with 12 CP, be readjusted maybe, just slightly. Maybe like 1 or 2 point reduction on some of the 4 CP ones. What's the Cloud of Flies or something that like targets Terminators, costs 4 CP? That even at 1 reduction, it's questionable if you can use it. You cannot use it at 4 CP. It's actually unobtainable at 4. It just needs some of the and also like the spawn to give disgusting resilient and +1 toughness. That should be 1, no matter the unit size. Yeah, there's things that should just be helped. Like these, the biggest thing is I think if they just helped our stratagems a bunch, that would bring us into a huge competitive advantage for Death Guard. I think that would be more than enough to bring us into a very playable state.
That's fair. I mean, one of the things that we've sort of talked about, me and Aiden and other people at events too, I think a few people, I think it might have been Art of War, said this as well on one of their podcasts. We need a 5-up, feel no pain against mortals. Even if it's just against mortals, I think that's fine. I think at the moment, I feel like for me that would be the fairest thing, because it's frustrating how much mortals just melt us. The armies that sort of spam them out, Eldar and a few other factions that just sort of seem to have them all over the board and everywhere. Especially when we've got, 3-wound Blight Lord Terminators or Death Shroud Terminators that cost 40, 50 points. And you get, the Orc Squig Hog boys charging, 70 points or whatever. And they do mortals on the charge, they roll a 3, there's a 50-point model gone for your 70-point sort of like chaff unit. It just feels a bit stupid. It feels like we should get at least some kind of mortal wound defense. So,
yes. I want, if I can say one crazy thing I want them to give us a 6-up feel no pain against everything. And the Plague Surgeon give us a 5-up against everything instead.
Yes.
If we already have the 6+. But I think I think the Feel No Pain should be limited to only Astarte models. So only things like Mortarion, the Death Shroud. I don't think the Poxwalker should get it. I don't think sponsorship. I think it should be limited to our actual Starday's unit.
Yeah, so not the demon engines, not the rhinos, nothing like that. Just the actual troops.
But just give us a 6-up Feel No Pain against everything. Give us a reason to bring I just said his name, a Plague Surgeon, just so we can get the most out of it.
Yeah, he's probably the saddest model in the Codex, isn't he? I think him and a Defiler might be having a fight for the sad. Oh, you know,
a Land Raider, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say the Land Raider, the Predator as well. I know the Predator got a little bit better with his free war gear, but you're never going to take him while the Plague Burst Caller exists. I mean, we're even talking, would you take a Plague Burst Caller?
Our sad freaking Land Raider that's T8 and not T9 like everybody else's is. We're not that cool, I guess.
Yeah,
if you just give the vehicles disgusting resilient, I'd be happy with that. Like, please, just.
Also fair. If they just slap that on Defiler, I'd probably bring one just for the lulz.
Yeah, if they make Predators T8 of disgustingly resilient, you know.
Well, I don't know about. Are they T7 right now or T8?
T7 right now.
Okay, I don't know about making them T8.
Well, CSM wants a T8.
Okay, now we're getting a little bit of the dreamland.
CSM a T8.
Are they?
Yep.
I didn't know
that hurts. That one hurts.
And they have D6 plus 2 damage last cannons on CSM ones.
I did know that, but not on Predators. It's only on the main weapons or on the main weapon of the Predator, and then on the Land Raider.
Yeah. Don't ask.
They're Hellforged las cannons.
Ooh, spooky ones.
Well, all in all, thanks for having me. I think this is a good point to wrap up with you guys. Would you say so?
It is, yeah. I was just going to say that myself. I think we've covered everything, and
I've got to go and recreate a list.
You've been a great guest. We've really enjoyed having you on, and obviously we'd love to get you back at some point, especially if you and Aiden are tussling out for the top spot. So hopefully you have some more good events, sort of some good results coming, and yeah, maybe we'll catch up with you, in a few months just to sort of catch up on the meta. Maybe if we have a big change somewhere, we want a third person sort of opinion, then we'll get you back on. But before you do go there, Garret, what events have you got coming up? Anything you want to shout out? Anyone you want to shout out?
Oh, okay, so I have a few. I'm going to the Death Guard, Death or Glory Invitational, and then I've got their Motor City Mayhem event, which is their flagship event for the year. Death or Glory is a very large community here in the Midwest.
Yeah, sounds good.
Or Midi, really sorry. So it's just there's a lot going on right now, and then I'm planning on going to LVO next year. I should be going to Nova Open later this year. Right now, I think those are the only events I have in my sights. Oh, there's a GT within a few less than 5 hours. I'll probably be going to it here pretty soon.
Nice. Well, we'll be tracking your results for sure. And Ian, anything you want to add before we finish? Anything that you want to sort of mention or plug?
Not particularly. Like I said, obviously we've got our big event coming next weekend, so look forward to hearing about our results from that and how we did and our experiences. Obviously, cheers for Garret coming on and sharing all your experiences, and make sure you do go check out his channel, Watching in the Dark on YouTube. Share that love around, drop him a like, drop him a sub. He's got good content on there, and support a fellow creator.
Well, so yeah, great to speak to you both, and thank you again for coming. And also, just a general update to people listening, we do now have all episodes on Spotify and other podcasting channels, and when we get this one up on YouTube, we'll also get it up on Spotify. So the people who've been asking to have it on there, don't worry, we've got you covered. But again, guys, thank you very much for having this chat. And Garret, again, congratulations on leading the charge for Death Guard this season. Aiden, pull your socks up.
Yep, I'll see you at the top, Aiden.
I'll try.
Oh yeah, you can look up me. I'll see you down there from my top place.
Right. Well, anyway, thank you very much, guys, and thanks for listening, everyone.
See you guys in the next one.
All right. Cheers, everyone. See you later.